Hello, friends. Welcome to the Best Mom Ever Parenting Teens podcast, your place to get the tools and strategies you need to have a close and trusting relationship with your kids. Thanks for listening. We are glad you're here. Welcome to Best Mom Ever. I'm Allison, and I'm so excited to have Emma Perez this morning. And we are going to talk about this whole idea about teens going to college, or what are they going to do after school? There's a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm super excited to share it all with you. But Emma is the founder of Be On Purpose, LLC. Emma is a mentor who specializes in helping teens and young adults craft who they want to be and how they will impact the world. Coming from schools all over the metro of Atlanta, she saw a need and created Life Quest, which guides students through self-discovery, career exploration, and vision creating. So welcome, Emma. We're so glad you're here. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. I would love for you to give us just a little more background about how you found yourself in this space or discovered this real specific need to kids, teens figuring out how they're going to go from this transition from being in their parents' house to hopefully being self-sufficient, and how college isn't necessarily for everybody, or if it is, like, how are we going to really direct that and like maximize the use of the resources that it takes to send a kid to college?
Yeah. So how I got here working with young people through this stage of life has a lot of twists and turns. But the short version is that I actually had a career change about 10 years ago. So I did something else completely different for about a decade. When I entered into this career change, it was really scary because I didn't know what else I could really do. I didn't know what my transferable skills were. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I took what at the time I thought was a placeholder job, working in admissions at a university. And during that time, I started working with career coaches and life coaches and therapists and things like that, and went through my own journey, right? Eventually, my husband and I moved to a new state, and I ended up taking a job conducting college and career workshops at high schools all across the metro of Atlanta, like you mentioned. And so I was in schools working alongside teachers and working with students and presenting to them. And it was a really unique experience. I mean, I come from a family of educators, so I kind of had a sense of what it was like through their eyes, but actually being in the school was just so eye-opening to me. And what was interesting is that like I said, I visited schools all over the metro of Atlanta. So lots of different neighborhoods, lots of different experiences, right? And something that I noticed that was pretty much the same across the board was that when I brought information about colleges, they were like, yeah, because they have college counselors at school who are saying, okay, after high school, you're going to college and let's talk about admissions. This is how you do admissions. So let's get you in. When we got to the part of the workshop that was about, right, what are you going to do for work? What's suited to you? How do you want to spend your time? Things like that. That's when the kids really perked up. And that's when they really started listening. And after presentations, that's what they had questions about, because that's what no one was talking to them about.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. There's this, I think there's this general assumption that a young person is going to resonate with one of the subjects in school and then major in that. And that's what they do, right? But the thing is that schools teach to certain types of intelligence, not all. And so for a kid who's like, yeah, I'm really into math, or I'm really into English, or whatever it is, they're lucky, right? There are other young people that maybe it's something else that is offered at school, but is not as high of a priority. Or perhaps it's not anything that's offered at school. Or perhaps it's not anything that's a subject matter. Or maybe what they're really good at is not that tangible, right? And so then what do? And they go to their teachers and their counselors and they say, well, I don't know what I want to do. And they're told, oh, just follow your interest. Well, what if you don't know what your interest is? What if you have lots of different interests, right? What if you don't know how to turn your interest into a career? What if it is not a major in a university, right? And they're told, well, just go ahead and go anyway. you can go in undecided and declare a major later. Allison,
awesome. No plan. Let's fly by the seat of our pants in our first decision as becoming adults.
at $40,000 a year. No, thank you. Right.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
I have met people that have left school after 2 years because they did all their gen eds and they still had nothing to declare. So,
Wow.
how are we helping them make this decision? And especially when the future right now for them is so like, we don't know what 30 years down the road is going to be for us. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's where I saw the need. And that's when I said, okay, I can take everything that I've learned in my time doing these workshops and working in admissions at a university and my own personal experience working with these career coaches and life coaches and put it all together for this age range, 15 to 25.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I created my codified program, Life Quest, and started working directly with families.
That is such a great introduction. Like, I'm so glad to have all of that. So useful to have the context.
Yes.
Like, we are getting ready to become adults, be responsible for our own needs.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that we are doing as a society for our students is telling them the most important thing is that you do this really, really expensive thing to launch yourself into adulthood. And that's just going to work out. This is what worked for me. And so it's going to work for you. And I think that's super unfair to set our kids up with, because like you said, we don't know what it's going to look like. Things were different then. Yes. Like the job market was different then. The culture was different then. The needs of society that were preparing people for jobs, and even just the whole education system itself is structured for, we're going to send people off to college and then they're going to learn these skills. But it's like, we're not even teaching things like finance and communication skills and resilience and.
Exactly. Like you said, the first thing we're asking them to do, which keep in mind, they rarely have agency over their life up until this point, right? It's here's your go here, do this. Here's the answer. Now give me the answer back. So finally, they have agency over their life. They're not given what they need to make these decisions for themselves. And also, we're asking them to make this huge financial decision, like you said, with no financial education. Right?
Yeah. So they don't even know how much like $20,000 to $40,000 is and how much of their life it's going to take to pay that back. Like there's no concept. Right. There's no construct for that.
Right. And there's no research into, well, what will my salary be with this? If I go to this liberal arts school and pay $60,000 a year to be a teacher that earns $40,000 a year, what is my return on investment? So there's just so much out there that I'm like, I want to work with these kids. And like you said, it's so different too. The cost of college has increased 139% since the 1980s. And work is changing. Girl, I could go on and on about all of these things. But the way that we work and how we make our money is changing so much that it's just not parents these days, with how much everything is changing and how much the internet and everything, we don't have our own experiences to draw on to help our teens because it's so different now.
Oh, yeah. That's so fair. That's so fair. And parents are really just trying to do the best that they can for their kids. Because they're like, well, college worked for me. I know it's going to help you. I value education. Mm-hmm. So this is what we're going to do. And they don't really have a context for doing something different. And so I am so excited to be part of this conversation to liberate people from this paradigm that isn't serving people anymore. Sure, college is great for some people in some situations, for certain jobs. It has a role to play.
Yes.
And like, there's also something to be said for letting our kids, these humans that are coming up, to figure out who they are a little bit before they make these really expensive investments in their education.
Absolutely. And there are ways to do this. First of all, I agree with you. Education is so important. This is why I talk about 7 ways to continue your education. University is just one of them. Okay. And also giving our kids time. I love how you say that, because there is this idea that if you don't go to college now, you're never going to go, which is not necessarily true. And there are ways to give them time that isn't just a year off. Right. Yeah. I think that's another thing that's a fear of parents. For some kids, a year off to recover from burnout and things like that is not a bad idea. But there are ways to take this time and to give them a chance to explore and find where they want to be that is still either educational or active. I mean, there's so many things out there. And so, yes, this is the knowledge I want to bring to families.
So have you seen any really great success stories that you can share with parents about people who have not gone to college or have even maybe not graduated from high school?
Oh, good questions. For the latter, I personally don't. I personally don't know anyone who hasn't graduated from high school.
Okay.
I'm sure there are stories out there. As far as not graduating from college, yes, there are so many stories. Oh, I'm trying to sift through some of them. Give me just a second, Allison. Do you want like a personal story or
Oh,
just any story at all?
yeah. I mean, I think that parents are sort of afraid. And so when it comes to this idea of like, maybe my teen doesn't want to go to college, maybe this doesn't seem right to my teen. So, okay. So let's just put a hold on that for a second, because I know you're going to come up with some great stories for us and we can come back to it. Let's talk about why this generation struggles so much with the college track, high school, college, job. Like people have this huge fear about not going to college, but I think that when it comes to the teens themselves, they're like, what is this for me? Like, is there even a future in this? Because they are coming up against, their parents who are like, you have to go to college, you have to go to college. And then these teenagers are like, but I don't want to go to college. I don't like school. Like there's other skills, there's other things about myself that I want to highlight. Like you were saying that like the way that we're educating is only for certain types of intelligence. And I think that proportionally, there's a lot of young people coming up with this huge sense of like all of the information that's available to them. And it affects the way that they think. It affects their values. It affects like they're thinking about social justice. They're thinking about like global issues, the health of the planet. Like they care so deeply about all this stuff. And it's because just their whole experience has been different. And so it shaped them differently. They're not the same type of worker bee that's come up before. So can you talk a little bit about how much they're struggling or like the kinds of things that you're hearing from teens that are saying like, I don't know if college is for me?
Yeah, I think all of those things definitely play a factor, right? So cost is definitely a huge one that they talk about. They are giving pause to this because they do see the price tag. And what you got to keep in mind is that on average, families cover about 60% of college costs. And so the rest of it is on the student. And so if you are looking at, $100,000 for your education, then you're starting your adulthood right after college, 30,000 in debt, which is the average that students have. Wow. So they are taking a minute to say, let me think about this, which is smart.
I love that you say that.
Right. But it's challenging because they're hearing that the smart decision is going to college. And so they do feel torn. They feel like, am I doing the wrong thing by taking a minute here or not? So they're very confused by this. They do see that work is different. Okay. There are so many new ways to make money, and they know that and they see that. And so they're going, is this even really necessary? And then, of course, there's everything else that's going on in the world. And they are very aware of wanting to have a part in improving what their experience will be in their future with everything that you said, social justice and climate change and everything else. So that's really important to them. And yes, like you said, there are certain things out there that absolutely require that college degree, but they want to make sure that that is the path for them. Because the reality is there are some things that also you have a choice of a college degree or some kind of other education. And with other things, it is another kind of education that is required for that. It's not college, right? And so they do want to take their time to make that decision. And so when they have parents that are supportive of, okay, let's take some time and let's figure out what you need to do to make that decision, they're very grateful for that. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I think so. We were talking about like why and how this generation struggles and what their lens feels like.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here's another thing too, is when you look at all of the changes that are happening in technology and work and everything like that, we have quickly changing technology, right?
Yes.
And so hard skills have a shelf life of about 4 or 5 years now because of this quickly changing technology. And when you look at the school system, right, when you have a system that is that large, it takes a long time for change to happen. So we have a disconnect right now with how we're educating and what is needed for work. And employers are noticing this. Employers are saying, how come I can't get people with the skills that I'm looking for and things like that? And so, yes, education is absolutely important, but we just have a system that's educating for, like you said, a past paradigm. And so there's this disconnect, and young people can feel that. They can feel that, and they're not really sure what to do about it.
Wow. So they really are listening to their instincts and their intuition, even in even in like a society or a system that's telling them like, you don't need to think here. This decision is made for you. They're still like, is this right? So more power to them for questioning a little bit and saying, okay, but this is my life. How am I going to live it?
But I will say some kids are getting a year into college and then realizing they are on that train. They're in that current that just keeps going that way.
Sure.
And they get there and they go, oh, geez. And that's when they take their pause. So that's happening as well.
Okay. So how do we let our teens who do go to college feel like they are at choice? They are making a decision that they want to make that feels good to them.
How do we help our kids who are going to college make sure that it is their choice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is one of the reasons why I work with young people the way that I do. It's because right now, our college and career guidance is essentially go to college, figure out what you want to major in, then figure out what the jobs are, get one of those, and then build your life around that. Okay.
Feels so backwards. That feels so
It is
backwards.
absolutely backwards. My process is the opposite of that. Okay. So I start with who are you as a person? What do you care about? What are your values? What are your priorities? How do you want to spend your time? That's where I start. And teens love this for two reasons. A, at this stage of life, nobody else is talking about that. They're talking about their stats, their numbers, their ranking, right? It can be very dehumanizing. All right.
So dehumanizing. Yeah.
And B, they are in a developmental stage where they are finding their own identity separate from their parents. That's what this stage is. That's why it can be hard to communicate to your teen, right? Why they'll hear things from other people and not you. It's really normal, but it is a natural developmental stage. So that's what they're doing right now. They're finding their identity. They're looking for who they are. So they get to do this work of really discovering that, okay? Taking what they innately know and actually putting words to it, right? And then we talk about what do you want your life to be apart from work, right? Because work is not your whole life, nor is it half your life, okay? What you do for work needs to fit you, absolutely, but it's not everything. So let's take a look at what you want for your life and how you want to spend your time. And then let's look at what you financially need for that life. And now let's find occupations that fit you, that fit your values, your priorities, your lifestyle, and your financial needs, right?
So good.
Then you find the right educational path for that, which we've talked about. It may be college, it may be something else. And then once you have that solidified, then we can start talking about, okay, what are your immediate next steps? How do you set goals? How do you, persist in them? Or how do you know when it's time to redirect? Because sometimes just like never give up, never surrender is not the answer. It's knowing when is the appropriate time to continue or redirect, right? So then we can start talking about those kinds of things. So that is what gives a young person more assurance that, okay, yes, this is where I need to be.
So we're really focusing on that North Star here.
Yes.
We're saying, who are you? What's important to you? Let's build your life and your career around those things, because you could pick the job or the field of study that seems perfect because you have these skills and these aptitudes, these strengths. Everybody wants to focus on your strengths. But then at the same time, like you turn around and then it turns out that this kid really wants to travel, but you're sending them to like dental school or chiropractor school, and they need to, if they're going to do that job, they have to set up a practice. They have to stay in one place. That's not who they are. And then they're stuck in all of this like medical billing situation that just feels so not in alignment with somebody that's like spirited and wants to travel.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people won't realize that until they're already in it. And then
Right.
they go, oh, what do I do now? And that's a scary place to be in. I know.
It legitimately feels like a negligent level of like not planning.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Now, I have had some people say, well, a teenager can't know what they
Oh,
want for the rest
sure.
of their life. Or I've had teenagers they feel the pressure of, I've got to decide right now what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And the thing is no, you don't. You need to know who you are right now. That will change because circumstances happen and your values will change. But when you go through this process of getting to know yourself and solidifying those things, and you know how to do that process, and you're going to be able to more easily recognize when things are changing and you know what to do about it in that moment.
That's really great. So, can we talk a little bit about alternatives to
Mhm.
college? What are our other options? Because I think that's like the burning question in the room. Like that's the elephant, right? We're like, is college right for us? What should we study? Why is it a hard conversation? And why do we need to make sure that we're planning effectively when we set this up? But what are some of the alternatives that young people have? Maybe
Yeah.
even to going straight into school or to going into a Bachelor of Science in something.
Yeah. So, first things first, just a little bit of semantics. Okay. So, a lot of times when we say the word college, what we really mean is a university that offers bachelor's degrees.
Yes.
And a lot of people say a 4-year school. And I say that in quotations because it is a bit of a misnomer. Okay. When you look
Right.
at graduation rates for a school, that's based on 6 years, not 4. Okay. Now, a person can finish in 4 years, but it's only a third of kids who enter university will finish in 4 years. A third will take up to 6 years, and a third don't graduate. Okay. So,
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. We gotta just let that marinate a little bit. Those are
yes,
really important numbers. Can you say that again for us, Emma?
a third of first time college students who enter school will finish in 4 years. Only a third of them will. A third take up to 6 years to finish, and the final third don't graduate. So they have some college credit, maybe even some financial education loans with no college degree.
Okay. And not to say that education that they did get that doesn't have a certificate at the end can't serve them in the
Correct.
workforce, because it absolutely can.
Absolutely.
And some jobs are going to have that as a barrier. So it's important to keep that in mind.
Yes. So that's the first thing. So I like to state university with that 4 year. Now there are some schools that say college and they're offering that 4-year degree, right? But I do like to separate that out because community college is another option. Okay. Community college, for a lot of people, they utilize that as a way to reduce their college costs. They can do their general education courses there and then transfer to another university, do their degree specific courses there, and then they have a bachelor's degree from that university, just like everybody else, but they spent less money because they did their gen eds at community college. So it's great for that. But that is not the only thing that community college offers. They also have degree specific associate's degrees. So some occupations don't require a bachelor's degree. They have associate's degrees that allow you to be fully qualified. So, for example, someone who wants to be a sign language interpreter, I have seen that offered as an associate's degree at a community college.
What a cool job.
I know, right? And that can be utilized in so many places, from when the governor gives an address, right, to concerts, right, music concerts. So there's lots of ways. Every community college is different, so you want to look at the ones near you to see if they offer that. But that is one that you can be qualified with an associate's degree, just 2 years, and then you're on your way. And some of them also offer trade or vocational programs, which leads me to another option, which is trade school. So those schools are their own thing, right? They're different from university and community college, and these programs can be anywhere from 9 months to a few years, and you learn a trade. And community college and trade schools are known, right? And I do feel I have noticed a stigma against trades, which is really unfortunate because, we've got this preference for college. You got to go to college, and a stigma against trades. So now we have an oversupply in professions. and an undersupply in trades. As a matter of fact, the majority of tradesmen are baby boomers who are retiring. So there are all of these essential jobs that are being left vacant, right?
Wow. So you're talking about like electricians, plumbers, heating and air conditioning, like things that we legitimately need to run our lives.
Yep, exactly. And I'm making assumptions here, but I think some of the stigma is that, oh, you get dirty maybe, or you don't make as much money. But I would say, first of all, some people don't care if they get dirty. They just don't want to sit behind a desk every day, right?
Yeah, thank you. Some
And
people like to get dirty. I'm an artist. I'm good with having paint all over my hands. Like, bring it on.
exactly. For some people, it is a very different educational environment, right? University, college is a completely different educational environment than high school. This is why some people can do really well in high school and not do so great in college, and vice versa. And so when you're learning trades, it's much more hands-on. It's a different educational environment, so people resonate more with that. And also, I would say your pay is competitive. There are people in trades who do very well for themselves, right? If you're an HVAC, you do just fine, especially if you end up opening your own business one day, right? In addition, your educational costs are less and you get to your occupation sooner. So you start earning sooner as well, earning sooner with less debt.
So then there's an opportunity to invest money if they're doing well enough that they have a little bit of savings left over. And you're talking about like right away in their early 20s, mid 20s, something like that. That could be totally on the map for them to be able to start saving for retirement if they went to trade school.
Yep, exactly. Job security. I mean, we're always going to need these people, right? So it's not a bad way to go. Okay.
Sure. Okay. What else is there? Do we have other options?
Yeah. So we also have apprenticeships. Now, this is one that people forget about or they don't know about at all. You can go to apprenticeship.gov and find apprenticeships all over the United States. This option is I can't speak to every single program out there, but pretty much this is a free educational option. Okay.
Wow.
You do not pay to do an apprenticeship. You get paid when you do an apprenticeship. Okay. These can last 3 to 5 years. You learn on the job and you get paid usually at a percentage, and that will increase as you continue in your education. I'll give you one example. Elevator repairman, that's an apprenticeship, and the average salary for that is $79,000. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Keep going. I'm listening.
Yeah. So that's just one example there. So that's a great one. They're similar to trades, right? But it's as an apprenticeship, you're getting paid as you learn. So that's a great option there as well.
Beautiful.
So we've talked about university, community college, trades, apprenticeships. The military is another one. So with the military, you receive training. A lot of times people can go on to have careers with that military training. But this is one that can potentially lead to university, just like community college can lead to university. So can the military. And with VA benefits, you're going to get funds for school.
Right.
So it's another good way to reduce college costs as well. So that's another option for you there. And then here's one that I love to mention. This one does 90% of the kids who do this do go on to college, and it is doing a gap year program. Now, gap year programs, a lot of times when we say gap year, we think just a year off, but there are gap year programs all over the world for young people. And there are all kinds of focuses. So some of them might be to immerse yourself in a culture. So you're traveling and learning a language. Most of them, however, are service learning based or potentially even research based. Some of them you can earn college credit while you do it. Some of them cost about as much as a year of tuition at a college, and others you get a stipend instead of paying to do it. So these are, and there are so many. I mean, I have a client who did one and earned his certificate to teach snowboarding lessons. I mean, there are just so many things that you can do. You can go out, you could sail across the ocean. You can do marine research. There are just so many things out there for dancers, gap years for dancers in Brazil. There are just so many options. So again, this is experiential learning. It is hands-on learning. You're working with a cohort of individuals. Most of the time, you're doing some kind of service learning or research or training. You're meeting people from other different backgrounds. There's just so much that you can gain from one of these. So much so that colleges love gap year kids. They will allow you to defer your enrollment to do a gap year. You can earn scholarships for doing a gap year. And most gap year students get better grades and are more likely to graduate from college, to finish as well.
Wow. And then we get to talk about all of the soft skills. You were speaking earlier about how the hard skills sort of expire very quickly. Like the college system is just not dynamic enough to shift with what the workforce actually needs. But the soft skills, the interpersonal skills, the cultural immersion, the experience and confidence that you gain from traveling to another country, for example, and interacting with these people and being treated like an adult.
Yeah.
Because college doesn't necessarily always do that for you. So you're getting all of these really wonderful things that you really should have in your education from doing an experience like this. Yeah, I'm so in favor of that kind of thing. Just like, let's spend a little bit of time figuring out who we are so that we can make that plan, so that we can direct our life in a way that we would actually enjoy for it to go.
Yes. Yes. You're going to get experiences that you can't get from the typical classroom environment. And like you said, a lot of these soft skills, which is what employers are looking for, right? They want that complex problem solving, teamwork, all of those things that you mentioned. This is one of the places that you can gain those kinds of, and just real world experience. It makes you a different student when you're just a little bit older and you've had some more real world experience and you've interacted with people that are different from the people that you grew up with. It makes you a completely different student.
So valuable. I think that we have given people a lot today in this conversation.
It's not too overwhelming.
To process. I think mostly it's inspiring. I really hope that it is inspiring and like maybe lifts some of the pressure off of this conversation around college, and it has to be this and it has to be this way and it has to cost this much money and how are we going to pay for it? Like, let's breathe. Think about like what our actual plan is going to be and maybe give ourselves a little bit of breathing room to figure out how we want to pay for it. What other strategies might be available to us? We do not have to fit ourselves into someone else's mold about what school is going to look like. And we might really be better off financially, emotionally, life-wise, if we think about it a little more before we jump in. So love this conversation. Thank you so much for being here, Emma. This has been so enlightening. Would you like to share with us, for those of our listeners that are super excited about this conversation and really want to get to know you more, I think you have a free gift that you might like to offer them.
Yeah, sure. So I have a training for parents, which if you go to my website, emmabperez.com, you'll see multiple trainings for parents. You'll see some things for teens there as well. But the one I want to draw your attention to is called How to Avoid $50K in Surprise College Costs. And this is actually a 3-part training because there's so much information here. So we go ahead and break down what the numbers actually are. Like, what are they right now? And then I talk about not only how to reduce college costs, but also how to avoid surprise college costs, which I feel like not enough people are talking about.
Sure.
So what are those surprise college costs? How do they happen? And then what steps can you and your team take to avoid those extra college costs? So it covers a lot of things from reducing costs to avoiding the extra to just, here's information that you need to know for all of this. So
helpful. I know that lots of our listeners will be excited to check that out. Yeah. Figure out how they're going to save some money on college for their kids.
Yes. So I'll send you the link so that you can have it available to them.
Excellent. All right. Thanks again, Emma. Is there anything else you really want to leave our audience with today?
It's a lot. It's overwhelming, but it's like you said, it's okay to breathe and it's okay to take a little bit of time if you feel like you need it. And Mama, you got this. You got it.
Yeah. Excellent. You got this. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to Best Mom Ever. And I am looking forward to chatting with you again in the next podcast. This has been Emma Perez and Allison Michelle.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello again, friends. Thank you for listening to the Best Mom Ever Parenting Teens podcast. We know how much it hurts to feel separated from our kids. And we want teens to know just how much love and support is available to them so that they can be successful. If you know that you want to parent with courageous inner calm, because it is the best way to create a strong and lasting relationship with our kids and teens, then I have a really special opportunity for you. Pre-registration is free and open now for the 3 keys to restoring trust and connection with your unique teen masterclass series. Master series. Yes. All right. You are going to discover the proven strategies to get out of struggle and into trust, confidence, and happiness with your teen. You're going to learn how to get the conversation with your teen flowing, discover ways you may be sabotaging your relationship, deepen connection with your teen so that you can feel heard and respected, and open up communication so that you can feel confident that you know what is up with your teen. So we can't wait to see you there. We're really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sign up in the show notes. There is a link. All right. See you there.